Gladly. White has called in chai squeeze sunum teat ul Dr. Michelle Jack. Uh, Kentel Sen Pinkton ul Naspicha. Hello, my name is Dr. Michelle Jack, and I'm from um, Penticton or Sen Pinkton, and Naspicha, which is Omak, which is in the Washington side of the very southern part of our Okanagan. And my connection to the land, of course, is being scale or silk from the land and the communities. Um, my grandparents are from St. Pinkton and Windy Bay, which I have a hard time pronouncing in our language, but is West Bank. Um, and my father and I are both born in St. Pinkton. Um, And basically, from the beginning of time would be an accurate description of my connection to the Okanagan. One of my parents is from um, the Canadian side of the border, is where I was born too, and then my mom is from Omak in the Washington side. So the very southern part of our territory actually is where the three rivers meet: the Columbia River, the Okanagan River, and the Methow River. So those are our tributaries. In the very southern Okanagan is our summer lands where we would always do all of our fishing and some of our food gathering, because some of our routes actually are only in some parts of the Okanagan up and down the south to the north. So um, our food gathering is a wide range because, of course, we're like a high arid inland desert area. So well, for a lot of my arts practice, I have been very interested in connecting visual imagery to traditional teachings, and then also being informed by listening not only to the people and the elders, the Skelчин, but all the Tamich. So Tamich means all living things. And like the mural that I have that's in downtown Penticton, that our NIPAT program at Anaukin did with the when they were relaunching the arts festival in Penticton in 2017. We did with Joseph Sanchez, one of the group of seven, the only living member actually right now, since we lost Alex Janvier this year. Um, so, and I know his daughter and stuff. She actually went to UBCO, and she was in one of our Anaukin shows. But just to say the connection of trying to listen to what the all the living things are telling us about what we need to pay better attention to, because the industrial ways of doing things on the land, um, and the capitalist kind of economy and all those things are very extractive and ignore the land and the elements. And so they try to pretend that they're not living, or that they don't speak to us and tell us things that we should listen to. Because before there was all that kind of development, you had to pay very close attention to what all the elements were saying to survive on the land. So just trying to make sure that although we live in more than one world of negotiating the space now, that we take time to listen. And so the pieces that I have in Ebb and Flow are about different aspects of that listening or that witnessing of the land. Well, the greater viewpoint of that for me is making sure that we continue our traditional migratory patterns, just like a lot of the animals and birds and all the other insects and other species. Like there's travel involved with keeping those connections to the land. Like some of the birds don't stay, during our winter months because the weather's so harsh and all of that. So um our people have always migrated around our territory and the greater plateau areas, um, to connect with each other, to trade, to gather food, to do all of those things that were daily life and practice. And my family, regardless of all of the impacts of colonization and um, even laws and impacts on either side of the border, um, in reference to like how residential schools were kind of really putting law and harshness down on the people of like taking the children away up into a certain year um, in the 60s, that um, my grandparents, in order to not have their younger children taken away anymore, they moved down across the US and Canada lines and worked down here more, because part of our family is already from either side anyway. Like most Silk people have relatives in every community within our bands and within our tribal area and within the plateau within our communities, because that um, goes along with how our traditional communities are based with each other. And so, in order to have like my father and my younger uncles not taken from them anymore, um, as soon as they got them back that year, they quickly left and came down to work across the border on this side. And actually, they lived in Brewster, Washington, which is right where the very southern part where all three of the rivers meet um, is, and lived for a few years. Actually, my dad went to even to high school down here, and then he um, kind of everybody went back up after that in the later 60s and early 70s. Um, and so, like, trying to negotiate the law systems of what laws or um, statutes and all those things are against the people is how they were kind of negotiating which space in the Okanagan they were going to be in at the time, because um, all of that was like, very, very destructive to culture and family and people's well-being. So they did the best that they could to combat those struggles and challenges. So it's kind of, for me, it's always looking at um, we belong to the land. Like in Western ideas, there's always like how you have ownership over things, but that's not um, indigenous or Scalic way of thinking like that. That's we belong to that, and we have a responsibility to make sure that we're helping in the very best ways that we can to help the animal people and the plants and the land and the water and all the people um, in the best way that we can. So, however we can preserve even our next generations and all of that is part of our responsibility. I think arts co out of some of in comparison to some of the other artist organizations has tried very hard to include as many different viewpoints from the Okanagan as possible, which is um, a plus, but also a necessity. And so it's really refreshing to have those other viewpoints honored and highlighted because within like the Western arts whole community and all of that, a lot of voices tend to not be highlighted or given space as much in historical points and influx and within the whole Okanagan. There's been a lot of racism that has influenced how even the art scene has been structured or um, like made within every community in the Okanagan. So there hasn't been a lot of space made for indigenous voices or any other cultural voices that aren't um, underpinning the um, general Canadian viewpoint or the general, kind of white centered, US viewpoint like within the southern Okanagan communities, like within a general way of saying, like, whether whichever side of the border that it is, there's still those challenges of there being space made in arts, if there is even space for the arts in general, right? So there's been a lot of struggle of being able to have artistic opportunities within the whole entire space for every artist, let alone making sure that there was space for um, indigenous or other communities of color within the Okanagan. So it's really helpful that Arts Co is cognizant of that and tries to make sure that there's the inclusion that needs to be there. Because you're not going to hear from every viewpoint if there's no space for that view to be included. So it's really important that there is that space.